Here to discuss all of it is Breitbart economics and finance editor John Carney and journalist Batya Ungar-Sargon. Batya, I just want to read back part of what we heard there from AOC in that brief rant that we played in the clip. She talked about an extreme concentration of corruption and power. I know who she's referring to, but when I hear those words, I think about Washington, D.C. and politicians.
There is such an irony to Democrats talking about oligarchy because, of course, for every one billionaire that backed President Trump, Kamala Harris had 2. 9 of the 10 richest counties in America are represented by Democrats. 65% of Americans making over $500,000 a year today are Democrats. 75% of hedge fund managers who make political donations donate to Democrats, and 95% of political donations from the top 3 management consulting firms go to Democrats. Meanwhile, President Trump absolutely crushed with Americans who make under $100,000 a year. The Democrats are the party of the wealthy. And Donald Trump is representing the working class because he simply lifted the pro-worker elements of the Democrats' agenda when they abandoned the working class to cater to their rich base. This is all performance art. And what's so upsetting about it is they are being paid by the American people to serve them, and they are doing nothing of the kind.
John Carney, I think the Democrats should rename the party and call themselves the Femocrats, because you could run on, we'll turn your man into Tim Walz. Turn your stud into a simp, because that's what it is. They stand up for boys beating up girls. That's what they stand for. They stand for terrorists blowing up your automobile that they were a few months ago going to force you to buy.
They refused throughout the Biden administration to do anything for working Americans at all. They had the opportunity. The things we're seeing Donald Trump doing right now with trade, where he is saying we are going to set the rest of the world on a level playing field with U.S. workers. We're not going to allow them to continue to take advantage of the unfair trade practices. They could have been doing this the entire time. They didn't. They can't do it. Their donors won't let them do it. Batya is absolutely right on this. They're subservient to their oligarchs. They're up there talking about this because they cannot and will not do anything about it.
President Trump's unprecedented clash with the judiciary sees, this is unbelievable, judge after judge creating roadblock after roadblock to his agenda. They've attempted to stop everything from cutting spending to cutting federal workers who don't really work and ending transgender policy nonsense. John Carney, look at this judge who used the Broadway play Hamilton. This is a footnote in the decision to block the ban on transgender troops. This is just a microcosm of the insanity of what's going on here.
It's completely insane. They are asserting control over the executive branch. Actually, Donald Trump is playing very fair with them. He could have said, you guys are insane and we're not going to do it, and pushed us to a constitutional crisis that the judges are actually pushing us towards. He's in fact playing by very normal rules, but I don't know how long that can last. They are asserting that they get to control who gets to join the military. Judges are making themselves the commanders-in-chief of the U.S. military. This cannot stand. The Supreme Court needs to do something, and if it will not, Congress needs to act to limit the jurisdiction of these judges so they cannot do this.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Shannon Bream about this earlier on the radio, Batya, and one of the ideas that she was saying could get floated maybe in front of the Supreme Court is to limit in the future, if there's a single district judge, for example, who issues an injunction, that could apply to only that case, or maybe only to that district as opposed to nationwide. Or maybe you send it up to the circuit court and there's like a 3-judge panel that determines whether or not the injunction stands nationwide. It does feel like the current system is broken and being abused. And you look at the numbers, it is disproportionate how often it has been used to stifle Trump versus any of his predecessors.
I think those are really good ideas. What I would say to Democrats who are worried about a constitutional crisis is this. Yes, we have 3 branches of government. I agree. It's very important that they be independent. What is your answer to what is clearly politically motivated activism coming out of these courts. I can acknowledge that we have to have these three branches, but what can you acknowledge in terms of the obvious abuses that I think we can all acknowledge?
And I'll just note before we move on, they call them universal injunctions, cosmic injunctions. It's a relatively new thing.
These used to be very, very rare.
Right,
It was
very.
district judges did not impose national restraining orders on the executive branch, hardly ever. This is insane judging, and really, actually, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is irresponsible if he does not speak out against it. He has the power to do it. He needs to.
President Trump is supportive of Darrell Iss's No Rogue Rulings Act that would block U.S. district judges from being able to issue nationwide injunctions. Moving on to this, the Justice Department has announced, quote, severe charges against 3 individuals accused of targeting Teslas with arson attacks. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was on the Faulkner Focus discussing the charges.
President Trump condemns this violence, and he is determined to restore law and order. There is a major double standard here. The Democrats used to be the greatest cheerleaders for electric vehicles and for Tesla, the company. The White House wholeheartedly condemns it, and we applaud Attorney General Pam Bondi for investigating these acts as domestic terrorism, because that is what they are.
They cheer it. Batya, the left is cheering it. You hear nary condemnation from them.
The vast majority of the political violence that happens in this country comes from the left, despite the fact that the right is heavily armed, right? Or maybe because of that. There is just a much healthier respect for law and order coming from the right. And the left, because they have monopolized all of these institutions, they think that they have this carte blanche to engage in this kind of destruction. It's horrible.
You know, it just feels like a no-brainer here. It is terrorism. These are felonies. Get the strongest cases and make real examples out of people. It's not complicated.
One amazing irony here is that a lot of Tesla owners are liberals, people who bought the Tesla before Elon Musk became associated with the Trump administration. So you are having liberals having swastikas carved in their car because people have decided that just driving a Tesla makes you a Trump supporter. You're right, it is. It's political terrorism. It's meant to scare people. It needs to be treated as the most serious crime because it is fatal to democracy to have people attacked violently for their political views.
Turn on the full camera system on every car, which is what they've done on these lots. And I want photos and video of every single person who touches a Tesla with malintent. Let's make sure that they never, ever work again. Well, actually, then they'd be on the dole. Never mind. John Carney, Batya Ungar Sargon. Great to see you both.
Thank you so much.